I'm Ruth. I'll be your host tonight. As we begin, just a few things about how we're going to be doing this evening. We will be using the chat panel to share questions and comments. If you haven't found the chat panel in your WebEx yet, it's a message dialog bubble. So you click on that, it opens up your chat panel. Please select all participants, not host, not all panelists, not all attendees, but all participants. That way the panelists will be able, the presenters will be able to see what you're saying and sharing this evening. So please choose all participants. I think it's all the way down at the bottom, so keep looking for all participants in the drop-down menu. That would be the chat panel. If you have audio difficulties tonight, you can check your audio connection in the WebEx settings under Communicate, and also down near the bottom in a floating panel. This evening's session will be recorded, so if your internet goes down, if you lose sound, whatever happens, you can view it later. We see our presenters there, Becky and Becky, and I'll let them say more to introduce themselves while they're doing that. If you would like to share your location, anybody over there in the chat panel, go ahead and send that out to us. Remember, choose all participants.
Well, good evening. My name is Becky Underwood, and I'm on the right side, I think, of your screen. And Becky Byer and I have known each other for many years, and I was actually her teacher at one point, but I am recently retired from full-time teaching, but I've taught everything from like beginning arithmetic all the way through AP Calculus and computer science. Becky Byer?
Hi, I'm Becky Byer. I'm on the left. As she had mentioned, Becky was my teacher, so it's always fun to get to do these webinars with her. Currently, I'm doing AP Statistics and Programming classes at my high school, but I have also taught a lot of different things like the other Becky has. I've done pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2, so I've got a lot of different things I've taught before.
All right, tonight as we get started, this is just kind of a little bit of an agenda of what we're going to be doing today. Becky Byer will start out with using scatter plots to create her art. She has like points plotted on graph, paper, lists and spreadsheets, data and statistics. Then after that, I will do a little bit with creating art using transformations. Then we'll go back kind of to the same idea that Becky will create a mountain scene, and then I'm going to do a graduation cap using functions and draw and those kind of things.
All right, so I am going to go ahead and share my iPad with you. So you all should be seeing my iPad screen. I have my TI software open just to a graphs page. So the very first thing I'm going to do, because we're going to do an art project, I don't know about you, but my artistic drawing abilities don't happen to be up to par. So if you wanted to have your students who are a little more artsy, they could draw their own pictures. But it's really easy with the iPad app to go ahead and just tell it to take a photo right inside your app. So let's say I'm going to decide that I'm going to think that this is a nice creative thing let's go ahead and draw the rover. I just hold my camera over and I click it, and then I can either retake it if I don't like the image, or I can just say use photo, and it will pop that right into my graphs page for my art project that we're going to do. Because this is my iPad, I can actually just click on the screen and move my graph around. So I could put my axis really wherever I want to on my picture. You can do the good little two-finger pinch. So if you wanted to change the size of your graph, you can do that right there, interactive. If you want to actually see the grid, which we're going to want to see the grid for our art project today, all you have to do is go to your tools, up where the little wrench is, and tell it that you want to view your grid. I like to see all of my lines. You could see your dots if you want, but then you can go ahead and just switch your graph to graph view. So I'm going to kind of give you an overview of our project, and then I'm going to go walk you through step by step how to get the final product. So the picture I took, I just imported a picture of my dog that I had on my phone, but it's really easy. I could have just taken a picture, as you've seen. And then I've printed it, and by the end of tonight, you're going to see how to get a dot picture on your graph. So if you wanted to re-emphasize just scatter plots and how to plot points and how to find points, this would be a really good intro activity or a culminating activity, depending on where your kids are at this point in the year. And then I'm going to show you how to do some piecewise functions, because if you have a dot project, you can actually play connect the dots on your iPad app and have students find the equations for those functions. So I'm just going to back up a little bit and walk you through a couple of steps. So here's my picture of my dog. I've already plotted a couple of points on there to get us going. To plot points on your iPad, all you have to do is go back to that settings button and go to your geometry app and go to points. And then you just choose, I want a point. And maybe I'm going to put a point right over here alongside her ear. And it shows up right on your screen. The black one shows up really well right there on her ear. If I was going to put maybe some more dots along her face, the black ones were really hard to see. That color just didn't pop. So to change the color, you just click on your points. And there is a way to change the attributes. You just click in the upper left-hand corner. And then you can just pick whichever color you like to put on there. I kind of like the magenta ones. I think they're kind of cute. So I just go to magenta and notice now my point happens to be along the sides of my dog. So if you wanted to go completely technology-based, you could have your students put their points all the way around their picture. For your kids who are a little more tactile, if you have a printer, you could actually print this off and then have them actually write out all of their coordinate points, which is what I'm going to show you on the next page. Maybe I'll show you on the next page. The one thing I'm learning is you think that you can click on your computer screen to do this, because I'm on a computer screen emulating my iPad. You still have to click on the iPad. So you can actually print it, which is what I have sitting in front of me right now is a printed piece of paper, and I was able to write down all of the coordinates. You wouldn't have to write it down with your kids or print it and have them write them. They could actually just keep a running list. If you don't want to take the time to have your kids find all those points, you can actually click on the point twice, and you can go to coordinates, and it will give you the coordinate for each one of your points, and then they would have all of their points ready to go. So it kind of depends on your audience of students, and is it worthwhile to have them go find all of those points by hand? Maybe you're wanting them to practice X's and Y's and which one comes first for a coordinate pair. Or maybe you're past that point of the year and we're just trying to get the outline of our project. So once you have points collected, it's really easy to just go say, I want to add a list and spreadsheet page. And then you're just going to record your points. So like I said, I've kind of had my list in front of me ahead of time. So if I wanted to draw Lua's right ear here, I just click in my square. And my first point was a 14. And my next point was a 16 for the X. The next one was a 16 for the X and an 18. And then off to the side right here, I have an 18 for the Y that goes with that ordered pair, a 20, an 18, and a 16 if I can read my handwriting. It'll be interesting. We'll see if we actually get an I out of that. So once you have that done, you're just going to label your axes, or sorry, label your columns. So these are my X's, and these were my Y's. And if you're new to iPad, I don't know if you noticed what I just did there. I clicked on the X and I held it down, and it gave me new options. That happens with any of the buttons on your iPad app where you see the little lines. So if I wanted to, I could click on the sign function and notice I have more, the inverse sine and the inverse cosecant are all there. So then I would just hit enter. And now I have my columns nicely labeled. Obviously, X and Y is what I called my other points. So if you will notice, all of my points came back in. That was not what I wanted to have happen. I plotted all these points ahead of time, but it's okay. You guys will get the idea. So now I'm just going to go add a data and statistics page. My kids kind of like this page because they're like, oh my goodness, all these dots showed up on my screen. It just kind of threw them there. This is where we get to organize our thoughts. So on the left-hand side, you'll notice it says tap to add a variable. So I'm going to add my y's there. Tap at the bottom. I add my x's. And since I selected X and Y, I had typed in, unfortunately, all of Luna's face at one point in time. And so it went ahead and overrode my data. So that's one thing you want to think about when naming your columns. If your students have more than one project open, or one project open, but more than one spreadsheet, if they already have data typed in, it will bring in any data that you've already named that data set. So there would be Lua's entire face.
Becky, I just happened to think, is there another way you could have done that and used the same variables X and Y? Maybe adding a new problem or something?
I could have added a new problem. Like if I wanted to, oh, yes, sorry. I'm like, do you mean like on a graph page? No, she's right. If I had gone in and added a new problem at the bottom, if I have more than one file, if I have more than one page in my file, adding a problem would make it so my X's and Y's are different sets. You were correct. So if you have not done this feature called problem down below, every time they add a new problem, the variables are only specific to that page, and then I could have multiple X's and Y's. Good call on that, Beck.
Yes.
So right here, I had typed in, obviously, all of Lua's faces, all of her face in for my X and Y values. Again, if I wanted to change the color of my outline, if I click on one of those points and I go up to my settings, you can change this fill color to be anything you wanted. So if I wanted a green dog, now she's green. If I wanted those pink dots back, now she's pink. So I found as I was doing this, every once in a while, I would get a point that either I transposed the numbers or it was a little bit not where I wanted it to go. This is kind of the fun part, to let your kids tweak their pictures, because what looks good on paper didn't always transfer over to my picture. So on your iPad, a cool feature, you can actually just click on your data point and you can drag it. And if I wanted to, for some reason, I could move that point wherever it needed to go. So as your kids are creating their projects, they can do a little tweaking along the way. If they decided, oh, you know, it needs to be just a smidge here or a smidge there, to a new location. I found when I had Lua all plotted out, there's probably about 40 points that went to her face. And I got really confused. So I was trying to think, how would I make this more organized for my students? So I hadn't really realized it, but automatically, as I was creating my project, I kind of had these labels going. So you'll notice I have it labeled as her left eye and her right eye, because I've kind of taught myself that I need to kind of keep my points organized. So you can actually help your students do that as they are plotting them on their graphs. So I had done all of Lua for the most part under X's and Y's, but you can then actually split them up. And I continue to use the X coordinates, but then I made a column called I's, and I only put the Y values for her Y's, her eyes in the Y column over there. Same thing with her nose. If you scroll down, or I scroll down, you'll notice that for her nose, the X coordinates are off to the left-hand side, and her Y coordinates are off to the right. So one nice organizational tool for your students is to kind of have them organize them a little bit, so that the different parts can be kind of easily seen where you're going. It also makes it nice when they're organized like that you can actually go click and hold and say you want to add another variable. For some reason, it's not giving me the add the other variable like I had done the other day. So you should be able to click and hold and say add the eyes to your picture. Notice there's my eyes just by themselves. But I should be able to force another categorical variable to go there and plot the two together, because if you look at my cheat sheet, so I will come back to that momentarily, you will actually see on the final product, I actually have 3 Y categories off to the side. So all of my X's are at the bottom for Lua, but her nose and her eyes and her Y's are all plotted on the exact same spot. And for some reason, that is just eluding me today. I like when I don't remember what I had exactly hit. I know that never happens to any of you live in front of your students. Maybe I double clicked.
As she's doing that, maybe in the chat window, I would like to know whether you have a standard or something that you do in your classroom, in your math classroom, where you think this activity might apply and where you could maybe use it that would reinforce something that you have taught this year. And I know that's going to vary according to what level of class you teach. But if you could just chat that, that would be nice to see.
So Becky Underwood has sent out a prompt for you in the chat. Becky, you could type that in the chat if you wanted to, as people are responding to it. Becky Byer.
Yep.
If you click on the, did you try the attributes up there next to the?
No, I thought I had done that, but yeah, no, that does not seem to want to go there either.
Okay, if you do the tools and then plot properties, can you get it from there?
Yes, thank you very much. We will come back to that after we look at the chat menu.
Thank you.
So we have some different things. We could use it and translate and rotate. Well, you're going to get to see that here in a little bit on the next activity, and probably could use it. And then also maybe using a scatter plot. So some ideas.
All right. I'm going to show you what, thankfully, Ruth has reminded me. If you go back to your tools, in tools, there is a plot properties option that lets you just add on a Y variable. And that's how I added on my eyes. And then if I do another one and I add on another Y value and I add in my nose, all of those show up. And again, if you click on them, you can change your colors, and what's nice is it's gonna change all of the ones that are associated with that Y variable all at once. All right, so from here, if we have dots, wouldn't it be nice to connect the dots? So to me, right along Lula's left ear right there, these guys kind of look like a nice little line. If you kind of notice where I'm clicking right here, these guys all kind of look like they're linear. Your students can now work on piecewise functions. You can go to the tools, and under tools, there's an option called analyze, and you can tell it to plot a function. I'm going to grab the piecewise tools, which is over here in the left-hand corner, and I'm just going to choose the 2x2. And then I'm going to notice in my 2x2, it gave me both options. I don't need this bottom one. So you can either delete it if it's going to bother you, or it's going to ignore it when I tell it to plot, and that second one will go away. So I think that the slope on the ear looks like it happens to just be a plain old 3x plus 30. And my restrictions are going to say that x is between 4 and 16. So you have, again, these little options right here for your inequalities. So I'm going to say my x value is in between 4 and 16. And I push enter, and of course it's going to have an error. Maybe it's not going to overlook, so let's just delete that extra one. And notice, obviously, that is not the equation of my life. It's not there. So let's go back and double check. So if I look at these 3 points right here, looking at my scaling, yep, it looks like my y-intercept is at 30. I think they're up 3 over 3. Anybody see what I might have messed up on my equation? You see anything in the chat window there, Beck?
Not yet. Nobody said anything.
All right, take a look at these 3 points again, and notice my x values down below. I'm pretty sure I told you I was going to type in a -4, but I didn't type in a -4. Neither are your students. They're going to have some issues. It's really easy on the iPad. You just double-click on your equation because it was still there. I can back up. I'm just going to add in my negative sign and say, whoops, I meant to say -4 to 0. And there's my line. Oh, this looks a little too steep. Go back and tweak it. Maybe it's a 2x, and it goes right through Lua's ears. So now you can take this whole project up another level. You can have your students do piecewise functions. Again, you don't have to print it, but if this was something you wanted tactile for your kids, you could surely print this and have them write it, or they can write their equations right there on the screen. So at this point with the new piece, yep, that's a great comment. I just saw someone said you could use some set notation. This is exactly how you can do a little domain and range with your functions. Notice I could even graph some circles over there for Lula's eyes and solve those. And you could have a discussion with your kids about, do I need to restrict the functions for her eyes or not, or your piecewise graphs.
And I saw somebody saying that they could use it in science, which would be great for plotting points.
All right. Someone just said, this is not actually a new app. This app has been out for a couple of years. And someone asked, is it free? I'm thinking it's still free right now on the store. You can definitely go check that out. All right, so with that, I think we're going to pass the ball over to Becky Underwood, and she is going to show you a little bit of geometry in art.
That's correct. All right. So Becky and I, something you may be noticing is that we're both using a trial mode for Reflector Teacher, and we just have not purchased it. This is our first time doing a webinar using the iPad, and we had to have a piece of software to allow our iPad to talk to our computer because the computer is needed for the WebEx. All right, so what I am going to do is talk about geometry. And so I'm just going to start. This is the main page. When you open up the app, it comes to your folders and anything you've created. Well, I'm just going to start from scratch. And because I am going to do transformations, with mine, I'm going to open a geometry page because that makes sense. Geometry is where all of that type of thing kind of lives. And one way to notice a difference is you might see up here in the corner where it says 1 centimeter. That's kind of a hint if you have a page open and you're not sure what kind it is, what kind of page it is. That is a way for you to know, oh, I'm in a geometry because it has that 1 centimeter marking up there. So Becky and I both wanted to deal with like some of the features of the actual iPad. So bringing in a picture is something that's kind of cool. We were also thinking with all of this, the COVID going around, what are we thinking about? What are we spending time on right now? So my first idea that I came up with, and I'm going to add a photo that I've already taken, but I had I started thinking about all the nurses and the different people, and to me, they've been angels. So I wanted to see if I could bring in a picture of an angel. So with my students, I have found that if they do not do something on paper first, they waste a lot of time. So when I make an assignment like this, I will require them to give me something on paper. With the iPad, that's awesome because then they can just take a picture of it. So as I get ready to do this, under the same place where Becky was going all the time, the wrench, that's where all our tools are. I want that picture, but I actually want to move it over. So I selected the picture, and I'm just going to move it over to the side. At first, when I was doing this, I found I was going to try to have the students draw directly on top of that. You know, import the segment, put the triangles on, that kind of thing. So I am not seeing the chat, so if somebody can tell me, I was just wondering, what type of transformation do you think I'm going to use to complete my angel? And Becky, if you can be telling me that as we go. Anybody said anything?
So I'm seeing the reflection over the y-axis, a lot of reflections.
Okay, and that is all this one does. So I want to get started with that and draw. So in order to start this, this is not the pathway that I would go through to create, but I want you to see how we do the transformation or what the instructions are for the transformation. So if I hit on that and hit reflection, what I want you to notice is right up here, this box. If I just click on that box, it tells me I'm going to have to type on a line of reflection, then tap the object I want to reflect. So because that's the path that we need to go on, I have determined that what I'm going to do first is actually draw the body of my angel. So under my tools, I just have to go back till I get back to points and lines, and I am going to create a segment. Like I said, originally, I actually had the kids, my thought was to have the kids just draw directly over their picture. I am not going to do it that way. I'm actually going to put my segment over here. It gets to be where there's too much going on and it's hard to select because I drew my picture and put my dots on there before I took a picture, and then it was like trying to grab dots was a little bit difficult. So there is my segment. Now what I want to do is I am going to actually go back one and get a shape. I need that triangle to be drawn on there for the wing. So I'm going to click on my segment for the first vertice, then off and down, and there's my triangle. I'm going to go ahead while I'm here and do the other triangle. Now, a couple of choices. You could click directly on the dot that's already there, which will attach them, or I could go a little bit below, like this, and bring that over. So it right now doesn't look much like what I have, but I can actually move this until I get it to look the way I want it to. Okay, I can move that up, so I could put those points together just so that I have my part of my angel. Now, if you'll remember, when I clicked on that earlier, it kind of gave us instructions of what we needed to do. But I'm going to go back and get my transformation tool again, and I want a reflection. I think this is super helpful, the fact that it tells us right there. Tap on the line of reflection. That's the first thing you do. Then tap the object you want to reflect. The reason that's important is you'll see as we go like to the next transformation, sometimes you don't pick, sometimes you pick the object first. So it's nice to see what it is we want to do. So it says, I need to pick the line of reflection first. Well, the body of my angel is going to be my line of reflection. Hopefully you can see that that got bold when I clicked on it. Then I click on my triangle and immediately it reflects. Now I want to do the same thing with the other triangle. So the segment, then the triangle. And there I have my angel, or at least part of it. So on the top, obviously I just put a circle and an ellipse is what I did. I'm going to go ahead and go add that for now, and then we're going to add some color because in my opinion, art comes to life when you start adding some color. So under shape is where my circle, I put my center, and then I just make my head however large I want that head to be. Something to tell you, I just decided I wanted a halo for my angel. So that is also underneath the ellipse. I found that it is easier to not draw the ellipse directly where it needs to stay. Draw it on a free piece of the screen and slide it up. But notice that little box again with the ellipse showed. Tap the location for each focus, then tap the location through which the ellipse will pass. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to tap, 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 there, and then my distance. So it uses the definition of an ellipse when you're creating it. you could start messing with that, seeing if you can get it narrower, whatever you want it to look like. And then I found, click off of that, if I can grab it, then I can go take it and just put it up here. So Becky showed you a little bit about color, same idea. I'm going to select my two top triangles, go up here, and I'll do the fill color. I want pink. I think I'll do the line around the outside also as pink so it'll show. And then notice we also have line weight and line style. I'm going to make that a little bit thicker just so I can see it. Now, you just tap off of it when you're done, and there I have my wings. Same thing on the other. So we could add all sorts of color to this. I have to remember to select what I want first. And my fill color, I don't know, we'll do with different colors there. And maybe my halo, I want it, if I can grab it. Keep hitting the, there we go. Maybe the halo, I'll make it bright like that. And we could put, I could get rid of the dots if I want to. I can go hide those. Let me just show you that real quickly on the face. I don't like that dot in the center. And so all you do for that, under Tools, go back to the main one, Action, and then there's a Hide Show, another toolbox, so it gives you the hint over here. Tap on the object to toggle, Hide Show that. So I really don't want that guy. So I'm going to say that's all I want gone. They could go get rid of everything. So this is art with just a reflection. That's it. But we know we have a lot more than just reflections when it comes to transformation. So I'm just going to do a simple, translation, a simple, just put those separate to show you how these work. Just like I did with the reflection earlier, I'm going to put this out just to kind of show you. We need an object and we need a translation vector. Those are the things that we're going to need in order to do a translation. So it doesn't really matter what shape you choose. I think it would make sense, you can do whatever you want, but I'm just going to start with a rectangle. And I just click 3 places to get my rectangle. So it's that draws my rectangle. And now it also said, besides my object that I'm going to translate, I also need a vector. So if I go back under my tools, well, there's nothing about a vector there, but back under lines, lines and segments, notice at the bottom there is a choice for vector. I'm going to choose that, go click and drag, and you could do a segment as well. You could create a segment. I like the vector because it shows the direction that it's going to go. If I wanted it to move down, I could move it here. So that's kind of the idea behind that. Now I'm ready to actually go do my transformation and do my translation. So again, remember, tap the object. This time the object's first and then the vector. So I'm going to tap my object, then my vector, and it translates. I can move that if I want. So maybe I wanted it to be where I'm going to try to do a tessellation around my screen. I could do that. I can also move this if I choose. Okay? So I'm going to start here and think about now, what I could do with that. What kind of art could you create? Are there, I think of all sorts of things to do with students. With this particular one, is there a way that we can tessellate? Will a rectangle tessellate? What other shapes will tessellate? Could we fill the screen? That type of thing. So I think there's all sorts of questions that we could add. And then remember, there's art, so you can add color. Just for time's sake, I'm going to add a different page just because I want to kind of separate these out. Under my transformations, we've done a reflection and a translation. So now we have rotation. So under that, just as I did, what do I need? I need an object. I need the location of the location of the rotation point, and then I need a rotation angle. Okay, that's what I'm going to need in order to do this. So under here, I need another shape. I'm just going to go with a triangle just because it could be any of those shapes. So I have an object. Then it said I also needed a point to use. Now I could create a separate point. I'm going to choose to use one of the vertices of my triangle for my rotation point, and I need an angle. And there's a variety of ways you can do this, but I'm going to just use segments and go over here and draw a segment twice, okay, and create an angle. I like to be able to see it so I can actually see what's happening with my angle. Now my transformation. I want to rotate. Again, don't forget, object first, then the rotation angle. Okay, that's what I need. So my object is my triangle. I'm just going to use that bottom vertice for my rotation. And now I want this angle over here. But I can change that and do whatever I wanted. So you could, with that angel that I created, we could do it with this as well. We could create our triangle and rotate. And then I just thought I started messing, because if I want art, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show you kind of an idea that I had. I'm going to color this one red just so that I can see them. I want this one to be a different color. It doesn't, just so that I can tell the difference in the two. Now I want to use this same angle again, but now I want to rotate the triangle that I just created. So I am going to do another rotation. I need the object, the point that I want to rotate around. I'm going to just say that one again, and my angle. And now I have another shape, or another rotation. Now notice how everything moves together. I have 0, or I can come up with art all over the place, in my opinion, with this one. And that was just separate, but you could add them all together. The last transformation, just because I'm looking at time and we have other things to share, is to do, we have one more, and that's the dilation. So under the dilation, the instructions, we need an object, the location of the center, and then a dilation value. So just because I thought it made sense, I'm going to use I'm going to create a shape, a circle, just so that I have something that I thought of a target. I could easily create a target to go into my picture. Oh, I think I'll make it big. I don't care. Not whatever. So there's my object. I have a point to rotate. I could add a point off of that circle or on, somewhere else on the page, but I'm just going to use the center because I want to create concentric circles is what my idea was. But it also says you have to have a value. So if I go back on the tools to actions, there's a spot for a text, and I just need to click on the screen and give it a number. So I'm going to say like 0.5. Okay. I'm going to do this a couple of times. Add a couple of text values here. I'm going to say 0.75. And let's do one more. I will say 2. And before I do that, I'm going to reduce my circle a little because that 2 might get a little outside. Okay, we're ready to go back with my transformation, the dilation. Object, center, then the dilation value is what I need. So the object, the center, and then I just click on one of these numbers that I have out here. So I did the 0.5, and I got a circle that was, the dilated by half, okay? Then do it again, same idea. I could do the same circle or this new circle, but I'll just go with the original circle, original center, and 0.75, okay? And just to show you can go smaller or larger, same circle, same point. Oops, I don't think I hit it. Did I hit it? Sorry, I don't know. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. That's why. I'm on a rotation. I hit the wrong button. dilation, I need the shape, the point, and the size, okay? So as you're going through that, I think geometry has art written all over it. Everything, I mean, we have so many things that we could do with geometry to create art. If I go, oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
While you're there, someone asked, can you label the points? Can you just double click on that point and show that?
I'll try. So I want the point and then done, if I remember where it is. So tell me, Becky.
So you said you can do a long press. I just did like 2 presses quickly together, and it lets me have label as an option.
I'm not getting that. Do I have them turned off? Automatically hide plot. I was just looking at I can automatically label them. But I don't see what I did wrong, because I thought I could just hold it, pick the point. I've done this 100 times, and now it's not working. So while we're doing that, I will come back to it because I'm looking at the time, and we have 2 more activities that we want to show you. And I will go, oh, one thing that I wanted to show you on this one. If they are doing something with circles, and I'll go back and see that in a second, I promise I'll go back to it. But if I decide I want to color the circle here and go in and change its color, order starts to matter. So if you draw a circle, so notice I went smaller to begin with so that I could actually add color to these, and there was a purpose behind it. So now when I go out, I can see both colors. However, that bigger circle I did last, because this is something that I had to figure out what is going on here. So if I select that and go choose a color, yellow, whatever, notice now everything's yellow because I drew that on top of the others. So if you're wanting to add color on top, the layering matters on that, okay? And as I was doing this, I was thinking of so many things in geometry you could do. You could bring in area of any of those shapes we created, all of these different things, there's so many things, length, so perimeter, area, volume, or not volume, but area and perimeter, scale factors, just so many things in geometry if you wanted to pull all of that together. On my screen, before I give it back to Becky and I go figure out how come it's not labeling right now, I did make kind of a sample. Are you seeing my screen, I hope? Yes?
Becky, we see a big, weird box.
You're not seeing
top of it?
You see anything now? Can you see my screen where it says sample assignment sheets?
Remember that you're sharing an application and not your screen,
you.
so the only thing we see is your iPad.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
Let's go back. Share my screen. Thank you. Now I'll do it. So I just put together kind of for all of our activities that we'll share with you, kind of an idea behind this so that if you decide you want to try to do something with this for the end of the year, I know as teachers you are super busy, so it's just an idea of what we could do, along with I have possible standards, and we will share that with you later, okay? I am going to stop sharing my screen, and Becky is going to do something, and I will figure out why I am not doing what I'm supposed to, why it didn't plot for me. Becky?
Okay. So this is a project I've done a lot of times with my Algebra 2 kids. They really get into it at the end of the year. I'll have some students who will spend probably their whole weekend designing a picture. Everything you see on the screen right now is done with a function. So if you wanted to take a look at the mountains, notice all of these mountains are just a nice little transformation. They all have the same slope. All I did was change where their vertices are. So if you kind of want to, we'll just kind of scroll through a couple of them. So in the upper right-hand corner under history, I can see that the very first function that I started my picture out with was in green. I did a nice little green absolute value, which is going to be one of the tree trunks or one of the the tree branches. It's over here. F5 is also a tree branch. I don't know if you noticed that little difference in color change, but right now I have the top one selected. Now I have the bottom one selected. So again, if I wanted to change these, I could go change the slope if I wanted to of the bottom one. And oops. Now maybe I want to change it to be a little more steep. So I can type in a 2 like so. And now my tree is a little cattywampus. But what's nice with the iPad is you can just click right on the function that you want, and it will pop it up and you can change it. So if I am not happy with the way it looks on the screen, you just double click and up will come your function. So like Becky did with her angel picture, I went ahead and drew these out by hand to begin with. Your students don't have to, but then I could label everything to get me started. So I wanted you to just take a few minutes and look at the screen. What are some of the parent functions that I probably use to create my picture? Beck, do you want to take a look at the chat window for me?
I'm looking at absolute value.
Yep, absolute value. You're right. There's some absolute values in both the mountains. There's 3 there. Absolute values down here with the trees. What else?
Quadratic.
Yep, the birds are quadratic functions.
And then a part of a line.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the grass down here is the line. You could actually make all the mountains with lines. You didn't have to make those with absolute values.
And then it says circle.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Could you make the birds with signs as well? It said.
You could make them. Hey, let's try that. So if I go add in a sign function, I just click on the tool button and I go to graph edit entry, and I can either use a template or I can use a function. I'm going to grab my piecewise there, and I have no idea where this is going to show up on the screen. Let's just do a nice sign of X. I'm not sure what mode I'm in. So let's say X starts at 0, and oops, probably need an inequality there. I have 2 inequalities. That's great. So X is greater than 0, but less than 17. Let's see where that goes on my page. Oh, you have an error. Why do I have an error? Well, if you'll notice, I have this extra box at the bottom. I just need to go delete that because it was thinking I was going to have 2 piecewise functions. And there is my sign function. You could drop that down, and actually the sign function might look really nice in the pool I have going on. You could have some waves going on down there. What else might look nice in my picture?
I see ellipse listed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's an ellipse down there.
Let's see.
It's raining outside right now, which means probably Underwoods, you're probably getting snow at your house.
Probably.
Maybe I want to add in a rainbow because it's raining here. Under my tools option, I could either go back to graph edit entry and I could actually type in the equation, or I can actually go to actions and I can go to something called math draw, and I can actually draw in. And now, are you guys ready to be loud and amazed? There's my parabola. So I could have my start to my parabola. I can click on it. Oh, I got to get rid of the tool first. Notice my math draw tool is still in the upper right-hand corner. I can double click on it just like the other functions. And now I can actually edit this guy. So I'm going to just select from the beginning. Oops, did not get from the beginning. So let's take all of this function, including its little teeny tiny negative sign there.
I was going to say, you missed the sign, but you'll get it.
And just let's put that inside one of those restrictions. And let's have it start from 15. I have no idea where this is going to go, but I know it's about 20 at the end of my page. Let's just say X is greater than 15. Well, I have a little tiny piece down there in the corner, so it's not the right domain restrictions. But this is really a fun activity with your kids. I've done it with Algebra 2. Becky's done it with some Algebra 2 kids before. And you'll have kids that have never done a sign function in their class say, you know those wavy things I've seen on the board for your other classes? How do you get one of those wavy things in your pictures? So quite often I had Algebra 2 students throwing sign functions and playing with stretching them and shifting them. And they'd be like, these are all the other transformations we've done with the other functions that we learned this year. So it was cool. They were actually taking it one step further than what I was even intending to do. TI-Nspire said, can you hide the axis? Yes, you can. So you can either, you go up to, oh, I don't want to hide show that because I clicked the wrong thing. You go up to the toolbars. You can go to view, not view. I thought it was under view.
Are you wanting hide show is under actions?
Yep, hide show. Oh, those are all my functions. By the way, if your students have all their functions on their screen, you can actually go do a nice hide show there. But I'm going to undo that. That's not what I wanted to show.
Well, no, it's going to stay hidden. Just go click on your axis now.
There we go.
There you go.
Now everything's hidden. I just close out of my hide show. And there you go. Your axis is off. All right. I am going to pass the ball back to Becky because I'm looking at the time, and she has one more really cool activity to show you tonight.
Well, my last activity is very similar to what Becky just did. And let me share my application again. I have to make sure I'm doing the right thing. But I have a nephew who is supposed to graduate this year or is graduating. I have on both sides of my family, and they are super stressed right now about graduation. So as we were talking about this, I thought, I've got to do something with the graduation, something to do with, okay, let's try that one more time. And so a couple of ways you can go about this. And I will show you the kind of the set of what I did. So I first found a graduation hat, and I just looked at some points and came up with like functions to go on that. So if let me click so it closes those. Of all of those things there, just like Becky was asking you earlier, and you'll have to tell me, Becky, what kind of things are on there that you see that maybe I could plot? Is there anything different? I'm not seeing any chat. So
yeah, quiet on the chat end right now.
That's okay. Well, I will tell you what I used. I was looking at my functions for my students, what I would have taught. And so lines are always there, absolute value. I had vertical lines on the sides of my hat, and then I used a parabola for the bottom. But I thought, that's not quite enough just yet. So I went in, and this is my final project, just because I wanted to be able to add some other functions other than just lines, parabolas. And so I also did 20/20 because I thought that was important. And just like Becky said, I have all my functions hidden as well. So you can see all the different things that I did there. I actually use the templates for the circles, and I use lines and parabolas, same stuff that Becky did, just with different functions. As I'm looking through, here is, let me see if I can find, I'll just do this. We'll make a new page here and add a picture. I said I would make my students actually plot this out on paper. So there is, I don't like where it is, so I'm going to go move my picture. But here is my picture. I would choose something to be in the center so I could come up with something. But you could actually put that directly on there, because I don't want my students to come in and I want them to deal with the math, not with the trial and error moving functions around, even though that's an awesome thing that you can do on the Nspire. But I would want them to actually show me that they had done the math. And because we're on the Nspire app for iPad, they automatically have their camera. So I would make them into this same, add like a, add a notes page. What am I hitting? The wrong button. Hit a notes page and go in and have them take a picture of their paper. I'm going to try to do it real quickly. It probably won't be great because I don't have great light where I'm at. But I could actually make them send me this picture, and this is a horrible picture, but I was trying to go fast because we're almost out of time. But I see all sorts of things that we could do. And so some other things that I thought of, what about a nurse's hat? If I go discard changes, out here, I think I have a bunch more. Yes. So these are just some other things that I did using transformations. That's a horrible Christmas tree, but I had a Christmas tree, a variety of angels, just I used rotations and different things. And then I went, you know what? A spider would be something that definitely uses reflections. You could do it with functions, or you could do that on Geometry Sketchpad. And then my high school, this is horrible. I'm not a great artist by any means, but my high school in Texas that I graduated from, we were the Pottsboro Cardinals. So I thought, what about if I took a cardinal and drew that on so that maybe as students were dealing with their own mascot for their school. So I just think that the art is limitless. And Ruth, I think you need to take it because I think we're about out of time here.
Thank you. Thank you to Becky and to Becky. Some nice opportunities to see putting pictures in that you already have on your iPad or just taking a photo right there. You may have seen in the chat that the iPad app is being offered as free through May 2020. So you have a few more days. That is a free download of the Nspire app for iPad and also Nspire CAS app, right?
Yes.
As part of the documents you get to go along with this webinar, you'll get a copy of this slide deck. So any of these links that we have will be available to you. Let's see, right here, let's go to, we did that one, we did this one. There is the link to get a certificate of attendance. And so I'll copy that. Becky, I'd like for you to copy some contact information, write some contact information, send that out in the chat if you wouldn't mind. Okay. People who might want to get in touch with you. All right, so we have the link to get a certificate. It's also showing on the side, and you will get that in email in a couple of days. Reminder that this webinar is recorded. So if you had any audio issues or you want to watch it again when you're trying some stuff on your own iPad app, you can view it again later. You will be getting an email that has a link to the documents associated with this session tonight. Okay, a quick look up and down the chat window over there. We see contact info for Becky Underwood and Becky Byer. Thank you both. Thanks for sharing your great ideas and your great pictures with us tonight. There will be a session survey right at the close of this when you leave the event, so please try to respond to those questions if you have an opportunity. Contact information for after the session. We appreciate you all sharing your evening with us tonight. And that's all for us. Thank you, Becky and Becky. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you for showing up. We had a lot of fun with this activity.
Have a great night, everyone.